Hi friends, welcome to my YouTube channel. Do you know, in the microbial world, fungi are the most fascinating organism. There are over 6 million species of fungi in the world. About 14,000 species, including fungal analogues, are recorded from India, approximately under 45 classes, 120 orders, 345 families, and 2,660 genera. While the currently known 150,000 fungi have more names than they actually need, a large chunk of the global fungal diversity has no name at all. They add the rocks which made the soil that allowed plants to colonize land, changing the atmosphere and sparking the evolution of large animals, including us. It was fungi that rebooted life after each mass extinction in Earth's tattered history. Without fungi, we would not have the planet we have today. With a huge population, the nomenclature and classification of fungal world is very important. In this video, I will discuss on nomenclature and classification of fungi with a content as what is nomenclature and binomial nomenclature, what is International Code of Nomenclature for algae, fungi, and plants. In brief, it is called ICBN, followed by ICBN, that is International Code for Botanical Nomenclature, then taxonomic categories, mycological taxonomy, what do we mean by authority, then the concept of 2, 3, 4, and 5 kingdom classification of fungi. The word nomenclature is taken from the Latin word that is nomen, means name. Nomenclature is a term that refers to a system for naming organisms. In biological science, binomial means use of two names which are used to specifically identify every organism, that genus and species. But what is the purpose of nomenclature and classification? The nomenclature has different purposes. Naming of organism is very essential to distinguish one organism from other. Nomenclatures enables people from all over the world to communicate clearly about different plant and animal species. It also ensures that each scientific name is distinct. It mainly avoids confusions and help to indicate current concept of relationship of one organism, that is fungi, with each other and to other living organism. The main goal of classification is to place an organism into an already existing group or to create a new group for it based on its resemblance to and difference from known forms. For naming an organism, an universal system of classification of living being, which is called binomial system or nomenclature, has been initiated, where each species is defined by two Latin or Latinized names. Such a name is called a binomial name, which may be shortened to justify binomial. A bioman or a scientific name, more informally, it is also called a Latin name. This is similar to the use of a first name and a last name to identify a person. The genus or generic name and species or specific name are the two words used. Notice that genus name is always capitalized and the species name is never capitalized. The first part of the name identifies the genus to which the species belongs, and the second part identifies the species within the genus. As for example, The binomial name of tiger is the Panthera tigris, where Panthera denotes generic name or genus and the tigris represent a specific epithet, that is the species. And similarly for the human Homo sapiens. There are 5 rules of binomial nomenclatures. Say number 1, the full 2-part name has to be written in italics or emphasized when handwritten. The name of the genus is always read first. The name of the genus must be capitalized upon, never capitalizing on the specific epithet. Carl Linnaeus, who born 312 years ago, as from today, was a Swedish biologist and physician who is known for the invention of Latin binomial nomenclature, popularly known as scientific names. These systems amount to a method for organizing and classifying plant and animal species. Carl Linnaeus is the legendary person who proposed the binomial nomenclature and taxonomic hierarchy. Species Plantarum is a book by Carl Linnaeus, originally published in 1753, which has every species of plant known at the time classified into genera. This book consists of description of various plant species that were known during the Carolus Linnaeus period. The species of plant were placed in general, which were grouped into 24 classes. International Code of Zoological Nomenclature, that is ICBN for animal, and the International Code of Nomenclature for algae, fungi and plant, that is ICN for plants, are the 2 internationally agreed code of rules governing the application of binomial nomenclatures. Although the general principles underlying binomial nomenclature are common to these 2 codes, there are some differences both in the terminology they use and in their precise rules. ICBN, that is the International Code of Botanical Nomenclature, was proposed by A.P. de Candolle at International Botanical Congress held at Paris during 1867. This, formally called the International Code of Botanical Nomenclature, that is ICBN. The name was changed at International Botanical Congress at Melbourne in July 2011 as a part of Melbourne Code, which replaces the Vienna Code of 2005. Another code, that is International Code of Nomenclature for algae, fungi and the plants, that is ICN, is the set of rules and recommendations dealing with the formal botanical names that are given to plants, fungi and a few other groups of organisms, all those traditionally treated as plants. As with the previous codes, it takes effect as soon as ratified by the Congress on 23rd July of 2011. But the documentation of the code in its final form takes some time to prepare after the Congress. Preliminary wording of some of the articles with the most significant changes has been published in September 2011. It was formally called as International Code of Botanical Nomenclature, that is ICBN. The name was changed at the International Botanical Congress in Melbourne in July 2011 as a part of the Melbourne Code, which replaces the Vienna Code of 2005, which I mentioned in earlier. Linnaeus divided plant and living being in general. The large kingdom like fungi according to their morphological characteristics, which were then divided more specifically to type or division, that is mycota, followed by class suffix with mycetes, followed by order suffix with algae, followed by family suffix with CAE, to finally group the living being to most similar by genus and species. Species is basic for categories. All nomenclature derived from species name. Sometimes in few cases there are subdivision suffix with tina, then subclass suffix with mycete. The different hierarchy of mycological taxonomy are kingdom, division, subdivision, class, subclass, order, suborder, family, subfamily, tribe, genus, subgenus, species, subspecies, variety, race, and ecotype. And these are abbreviated serially as K dot D dot SD. S should be small letter, D should be capital, then CL for class, SCL, S is small letter for subclass, O for order, suborder SO, S should be capital, then subfamily SF, then for tribe T, then genus G small letter, subgenus HG, both should be in small letter, species SPP, it should be small letter, but after SPP we should put full stop. Subspecies, it should be abbreviated as SSP dot, and for ecotype we have to mention the VAR dot in abbreviated form. And these are the termination I have shown here. For kingdom, this fungi, then division mycota, subdivision mycotina, then class mycetes, subclass mycetidae, order Alice, suborder Ini, then family SE, then subfamily Oide, and EAE for tribe. Authority for naming a fungi or any living being is an interesting part. Authority of a name, usually abbreviated and cited after a name for precision, and is in effect as much abbreviated bibliographic references. As for example, in fungi Phytophthora infestans, Dastur. Here the original authority is the Dastur. Similarly, for the plant Amaranthus retroflexus, L dot, that means original authority was Linnaeus, that is Carolus Linnaeus. Another fungi like Fusarium poei, within parentheses Peck, then Vollenio. Peck was the first person who named the fungi as Sporotrichium poei. Later on, another scientist, Vollenio, transformed it to the genus Fusarium. That's why for their recognition we have to mention both the scientist's name as Peck, the original authority, followed by the scientist who renamed it. Then name not validly published means where a name not validly published by one author is taken up and validated by a second, say X, is used to link the name of two authors. As for example, Calocibe quenier, X Donk Atel. Then Volveriella Muniella, Quell within parentheses, then Moser X Dennis Atel. This was published in TBMS, this is Transactions of British Mycological Society, volume 43, supplement on 167 in 1960, which was actually the recommendation. They have given a recommendation 14C and dot 46. For classifying the living organism, Carolus Linnaeus 1758 started the two kingdom classification like Plantae and Animalia that included all the plant and animal respectively. He categorized and classified the living organism on the basis of nutrition and mobility. The two kingdom classification received considerable recognition from biologists and was in use for quite a long period of time. However, as more and more information started emerging on the various group of plants and animals, this system of classification was found to be very inadequate. Studies were made on the lower forms of life in particular and revealed an enormous variation of characteristics in those forms, not in agreement with the characteristics of the group in which they were placed. There were numbers of demerits of two-kingdom classifications, as it did not differentiate between the eukaryotes and prokaryotes, unicellular and multicellular organism, photosynthetic, that is green algae, and non-photosynthetic like fungal organisms. That's why the classification of organisms into plants and animals was though simple, but a large number of organisms did not fit into either of the category. As a result, the long-used two-kingdom classification was found to be inadequate. As for example, Euglena, which is an unicellular organism having certain features of animals and certain features of plant. It has a flagellum which is used for locomotion and food capturing. However, it has chloroplast. Then another example, that is Chlamydomonas, which is an unicellular alga, purely autotrophic, but has a locomotor structure that called flagella, just like protozoa. Here I have cited another example, slime mold, which are a type of fungi. They do not have a cell wall in vegetative phase and ingest particulate matter like animals. However, they developed a cell wall in the reproductive phase, which is similar. Thus, they resemble animal in one phase and plant in another phase. Thereafter, Ernest Haeckel in 1866, he proposed the three-kingdom classification like Protista, Plantae, Animalia. Under Protista, he included all the unicellular organisms, and under Plantae, all multicellular plants were included, and whereas in case of Animalia, all multicellular animals were included. Still, there was a lot of confusion. Thereby, Herbert F. Copeland in 1966, he proposed four-kingdom classification like Monera, Protista, Metaphyta, and Metazoa. Here under Monera, all prokaryotic organisms were included. In Protista, primitive eukaryotes were included. Then under Metaphyta, advanced eukaryotic plants were included. And under Metazoa, advanced eukaryotic animals were included. Still, it was by following this four-kingdom classification, the scientists or the biologists faced a lot of problems. But in the year 1969, Robert H. Whitaker proposed a five-kingdom classification. He included a new kingdom called Mycota to include exclusively the fungi, since they differ from any other group of plants in their mode of nutrition as well as reproduction. So, Robert H. Whitaker in 1967, he proposed this five-kingdom classification that include Monera, Protista, Plantae, Animalia, and with the inclusion of another kingdom, that is fungi, which was exclusively for fungal organisms. There are some distinguishing features of five kingdoms. Say for kingdom Monera, these organisms are unicellular and prokaryotes. They lack a well-defined nucleus and cell organelles. Few exhibit the presence of a cell wall, while others do not. As a result, some organisms are autotrophic, while others are heterotrophic. Bacteria, cyanobacteria, and mycoplasma are few examples of Monera. Then kingdom Protista. All Protista are unicellular eukaryotic organisms. These are the most basic eukaryotes with either an autotrophic or a heterotrophic mode of nutrition. To move around, Some organisms belongs to Protista have appendages such as cilia, flagella or pseudopodia. Diatoms, protozoans such as amebia, parameciums are few examples. Then under kingdom Plantae, these are the eukaryotic multicellular organism with cellulose-based cell wall. They are autotrophs, meaning they produces their food through photosynthesis. All plants are included under this kingdom. The kingdom Plantae. The plant kingdom was initially classified as follows: Cryptogamia and Phanerogamia. Under Cryptogamia, all non-flowering plants were included and which were further subdivided to Thallophyta, Bryophyta and Pteridophyta. And under Phanerogamia, it was all flowering plants were included under Phanerogamia, and it was further subdivided into Gymnosperm and Angiosperm. Then kingdom Animalia. This kingdom contains organisms that are multicellular, eukaryotic and lack a cell wall. They feed on a heterotrophic manner. They are also extremely diverse. Some organisms have simple bodies, whereas others have complex bodies with specialized tissue differentiation and body organs. There are numerous phyla and classes in the Animalia kingdom: Polyptera, Coelenterata, Arthropoda, Echinodermata, then Chordata, and other phyla are examples. Hydra, starfish, earthworm, monkeys, bird, and other organisms are examples that belongs to kingdom Animalia. Next is kingdom Fungi, that includes heterotrophic multicellular eukaryotic organism. Their diet is saprophytic, as they feed on decaying organic matter. They have cell wall made of substance known as chitin. Fungi also have a symbiotic relationship with some of the blue-green algae. Fungi includes yeast, mushroom, and aspergillus. They show a variety of applications in domestic as well as commercial purposes. All fungi are filamentous, excluding yeast, which are single-celled. Their figure comprises slender, long, thread-like construction called hyphae. The web of hyphae is called mycelium. Some of the hyphae are unbroken tubes which are jam-packed with multinucleated cytoplasm. Such hyphae are labeled as sinusoidal hyphae or accepted hyphae. The other type of hyphae has a cross wall, or we used to term it as a septate hyphae. The cell wall of fungi is composed of polysaccharide, glucan, cellulose, or chitin, or both cellulose and chitin. The main advantage of five kingdom classification is that there is far less overlap and confusion as compared to the original two kingdom classification system. It places the fungi in a separate group that is called kingdom fungi, as it has a different mode of nutrition. It places the prokaryotes in a separate group like kingdom Monera. This system offers many advantages, like it groups the unicellular and multicellular, then autotrophic and heterotrophic organism, and fungi and prokaryotes very separately. Five kingdom classification demonstrated the evolutionary link between various grouping in terms of organizational level and manner of sustenance. Here prokaryotes are classified as kingdom Monera and are separated from the kingdom Plantae. Thank you for today. Make sure to watch my next video on classification of fungi. Friends, I hope you like this video. If so, please like, share, and don't forget to subscribe. Thank you.